Necromancer plus Fear equals fun. Fear is a condition effect that is great on Necromancer, being able to be buffed by multiple traits. One of these traits is Terror, which allows your Fear to do damage over time. Normally, Fear builds are built around core Necromancer, but today I've decided to build it around Ritualist, the newest elite specialization for Necromancer. Why build it around Ritualist instead of core Necromancer, you may ask? Core Necromancer would allow you to have all 3 Fear traits to buff the Fear further. Going with Ritualist only allows you to get 2. But Ritualist also has better mobility options than core Necromancer, and it has a lot more sustain with its life force gain and shroud, with its innervate skills and summoning spirits. Plus, to be honest, it's just fun, though core Necromancer can have its fun as well. So how this build works will be less about being an unstoppable force with insane bursts and more about being able to control fights with your mobility, survivability, and fear, while also having the ability to stun lock against foes who already use their stun breaks or main multi-condi cleanses. When it comes to its counters, it of course has the fact that it can be kited out while in Shroud like the other Necromancers to put its Shroud on cooldown, but a little bit less so because you do have that life force gain while in Shroud, allowing you to stay in it longer, and it also has a teleport on its 5, requiring your opponents to invest a lot of cooldowns into kiting. Another counter is going to be projectile reflex or blocks. 75% of our skills are going to be projectiles, which can be blocked, but when that happens you need to make sure to wait it out. Don't waste all of your cooldowns. So now that you know a little bit about the build, let's hop into the equipment. For stats, they're going to be Celestial. This lets us deal more damage with our fear and allows us to tank more hits with its survivability stats like healing power, toughness, and vitality, while still letting us have power stats to use our spirits for damage. You are able to still use Marauders or Berserkers for higher bursts with this build because Fear already has a high amount of damage without the condition damage increase. The only thing you'd mainly be losing out on is the extra survivability for control over more situations. For runes, we're going to be going with the Nightmare runes. These runes are made for Fear. They give us increased Fear and condition duration along with extra condition damage. This lets our Fear do even more damage while also letting it last longer to keep our opponent CC'd for as long as possible. Plus, it's also increasing the duration of our other condis, most notably the condis on our Shroud 3, which are Chill, Weakness, and Slow. For our Sigils, we have Malice and Force on both weapons. Malice increases our condition duration even further, making it great for all the controlling conditions that we have. Force, on the other hand, helps our damage get in a reasonable area where we're actually going to be able to win fights. The Relic is going to be the Relic of the Pirate Queen. This gives us quickness every time we disable, which includes all of our fears and our Shroud 3 and 5. Having that extra quickness can help with bursting enemies down while they're CC'd from fear or knockdown, and also allows us to stun lock easier. This is also a little bit more needed because we do not get that quickness from summoning our spirits because we do not take that specific trait. For weapons, we're of course going to be going with Sword, and Staff. Both weapons inflict fear on their 5s. Staff has incredible range that can be casted behind you and act as a trap. Staff 3 has incredible chill time, and Staff 4 transfers conditions from you to your enemies. Plus, because of a trait that we take later on, it does become unblockable. For swords, we have good lifesteal and range on most of its skills. It's also got 2 leaps on its Shroud 3, contributing to the amount of mobility that we get. For infusions, they're really not needed, but the safe bet is going to be taking the mighty Worldly World infusions. Our main damage will still be power even though we took a lot of condition-based buffs. For skills, let's start off with our heal. Our heal is going to be Resilient Weapon. This is a great heal over time that also reduces incoming damage. Another cool extra is going to be the fact that it is able to heal your allies as well for a shorter period of time, making it great for when you're roaming with friends. For our next skill, we have Spectral Walk. This gives us so much. It works as a condi cleanse that also provides us with life force when cleansing conditions, while also being a stun break that provides a lot of swiftness. If that wasn't enough, you can also teleport back to your starting location. This can get you out of a lot of situations because if you walk off an edge to bait opponents off, then teleport back, you've just got the high ground, and most classes need to take the long way around to get back up. Sure, Sure, they could have waited at the beginning location, but you don't have to return to it. Then you're able to get your skills back off cooldown, and most of the time you can just teleport back up the hill or cliff with your Shroud 5. So either way, it's going to be working in your favor and not against you. Our next skill is going to be Spectral Armor. If you know me, I really like this skill. It's an easy huge increase to survivability and can also allow you to stay in Shroud even longer. It gives you life force whenever you get hit, with an internal cooldown of 1 second. 5 seconds times 8% life force easily gets you 40% of your max life force, which is a little bit under 10,000 health. Plus, this still keeps the effect on you while you're in Shroud. Of course, this is also a stun break and provides a decent amount of protection. Spectral Ring is our next skill, and this provides us with even more protection, life force, and fear. With all of these life force gaining traits and skills, we'll definitely be able to easily keep our max life force when entering Shroud. To get the protection, you need to walk through this ring, and for others to get fear, they need to walk through it. So strategy tends to be to place it right in front of where they're going, or catch them right in the middle of it. And yes, this is an unblockable skill. Our final skill is Zinray's Weapon. This is a stun break that also provides stability. I tend to use the skill to secure finishers if I don't use it in the actual fights. This also can help on the survivability front with its lifesteal. Starting off with the build itself, we've got Soul Reaping. Soul Reaping's minor traits buff our life force gain, and increases the amount of life force we can get, while also buffing our Shroud's cooldowns, which is great paired with Ritualist, because we are able to stay in our Shroud for a long time for multiple cooldowns. Our first pickable trait is going to be Soul Marks. This makes our staff skills become unblockable and generate life force. This is very much needed for staff because the life force is needed, and having skills become unblockable is just amazing with its controlling conditions and fear. Our second trait is going to be Fear of Death. This is a buff to our fear that we inflict, making it both last longer and generate life force. Yup, more life force. It contributes to us being so incredibly tanky. The only bad thing with this trait is that it is on a 5-second internal cooldown. So if we decide to Fearlock foes, we'll only be getting that 15% life force once or maybe twice. The cap for condition duration increase is 100%, and with this trait and our runes and sigils, we're at 90% with fear, so we're still safe. The last trait we pick for Soul Reaping is going to be Death Perception. This increases our crit chance and crit damage. This is definitely needed because in Celestial Gear, our crit chance does drop dramatically, but with this, we're still going to be getting 82% with Fury. Moving on to the next specialization, we have Curses. Our minor traits here are incredible. For the first one, we're going to be getting a chance to cause bleeding on critical hits, plus its duration of bleed is increased. With us having our crit chance so high and having multiple hit skills, we'll definitely be getting a decent amount of bleed from it, especially since it doesn't have an internal cooldown. For our next minor, it'll be giving us increased precision, as well as Fury production when entering Shroud. This is one of our main sources of Fury alongside Innervate Anguish. Our final trait is amazing as well. This provides us with more condition damage based off of precision, and 2% crit chance increase per condition on the foe. This makes our crit chance go up to around 92% during our Shroud burst with our Shroud 3's conditions. For pickable traits, we'll be starting off with Plague Sending. This helps us get rid of nasty conditions by transferring them to our opponents. Our next trait is going to be Path of Corruption. This corrupts boons on our enemies. We can only hope that it converts important ones like Stability, Protection, or Fury. For our final trait of this specialization, we are of course going to be picking Terror. This is the trait that the build is built around, making our fear be able to do damage. Now for Ritualist itself, we've got minor traits that gives us life force when summoning creatures, and Innervate skills that also grant us life force, along with increased concentration. For our first pickable trait, it will be Explosive Growth. This again helps us to get our damage into an area where we're actually going to be taking down opponents eventually. When we use all of our spirit skills in Shroud, we're actually able to max out the duration of that boon. For a second trait, it's really going to be depending on whether you're fighting Condi builds or not. Most of the time, you're going to be wanting to pick Spirit's Remedy for that condition cleanse when summoning your spirits. It is very much needed if you're going against conditioned builds, and that means that in roaming you're going to be wanting to take it just in case you do end up going against conditioned builds. If you do know who you're going to be fighting against and it's power builds though, I do recommend grabbing Spirit Strength instead, just to help out with our damage even more. For our final trait, we have Soul Twisting. It feels really uncontested from a non-support point of view. So this build is going to be based around fear, so we need to make sure that we know where our fear skills are. Both of our weapons are going to be having fear on their 5s. Staff's 5 tends to be easier to hit with its long range and area of effect, and being unblockable. Sword 5 is going to be a lot easier to block, being able to be reflected or blocked as a projectile with its big animation. You're also going to be inflicting fear with your spectral ring as long as your foes walk through it. We can also inflict fear with our Innervate Wanderlust. To get the skill unlocked, you're going to be having to summon your Wanderlust spirit with its Shroud 3 next to your enemy. Be sure that the spirit is in range of your foe because it only has a radius of 240. When it comes to a Shroud, our main combos are going to be 232 or 323. 232 provides us with more damage than 323, but 323 lets us have more chances at positioning our spirit to land our Innervate Wanderlust. Plus, it'll let us have more chances at stun locking, and can inflict great conditions on them like chill, weakness, and slow. Another tip is that all of our Innervate skills in Shroud 2, 3, and 4 will be providing us with Life Force, so be sure to use them if you need that Life Force generation. Also, do note that Shroud 5 does now do damage if your spirits are already summoned. It can really help finish off people when they're low. Anyways, that's the build and the basics on how to use it. The commentary is up next and can show how this build works in typical situations. So starting off, we have a fight against a Reaper and a Ritualist. I start using my staff skills trying to get any damage dealt on this Reaper and using my Sword 5 dealing really good fear damage. The Ritualist then comes in and I just try to make some distance in between me and him. I use my heal with my main target still being the Reaper. I head in using my Spectral Ring and my 323 in Shroud, trying to make sure he can't go anywhere and finally getting him down. I head over and then start to use my finisher, and I could probably use my Innervate 3 for that stability, but I don't. Still, I finish him off and teleport away with my Shroud 5, trying to keep some distance in between me and the Ritualist because he has a full Shroud. I use my Sword 5 for that fear and try to do the same with my staff, but he ends up evading through it. I start using my Shroud skills trying to deal as much damage as I can, and then I notice that there is a red coming by. I'm kind of worried about that, so I start making some distance in between me and the mountain, just in case they're going to be joining in the fight. I use my Shroud 5 to get that distance away from it. The Ritualist ends up heading back a little bit, and I do see that their teammates are coming down. So I end up leaving the fight because I'm not going to be dealing with 3 of them. Also, as a side note, look at all these boons they have. This was when they're taking the camp, and I think it's coming from the Paragon, but I'm not sure. This fight I found my teammate fighting 2 reds in a cave, so I decided to come and help, and since they're distracted with my teammate, it's a perfect time for me to just go in and burst with my Shroud and my staff skills. I get both of them down and then can revive my teammate, and we just get them both down after using our finishers. This build can have pretty good bursts if they don't get dodged or blocked in any way. This fight is against a Druid. I start heading in and use my Sword 5 getting that fear dealt, and he can't really do anything during this. I also put down my Spectral Ring and that catches him as well, dealing really good damage with the fear, and then heading in and using my Shroud skills, both stunning him and doing really good damage. I then continue to follow using my Innervate skill and the rest of my Shroud skills, trying to keep up my life force as much as possible. I then continue to chase using my Sword 3 and he just staffs away because he really wants to get inside. Still, I'm getting some damage dealt with my fear, and then I can stun him again with my Shroud 3 and finally finish him off. This shows how well this build does at controlling situations with the fear and weakness it inflicts, paired with its survivability and mobility. This one's going to be showcasing its escape capabilities because I just got ran over by a Zerg, but I can teleport using my Shroud 5 because it is an instant cast while still stunned. I then can use my Sword 3s to try to get away as fast as I can, using my Spectral Ring also to keep people away from me while also healing with my heal. The fact that the Shroud 5 teleport is an insta cast has saved me so many times. I dismount this thief to start the fight and then use my staff 5 along with the other staff skills doing some damage along with the fear. I then start trying to chase him using my Shroud 5 teleport and the rest of my Shroud skills, but he's just a bit too fast and I can't really do anything about it. Especially with the immobilize that the rifle actually inflicts, it did annoy me a little bit, so you do see me walking away for just a little bit. That is mainly the reason why. But then I see him coming in and it's perfect time for me to try to deal some damage. I also use Spectral Walk at the beginning of this and he does end up stopping right by there. So I make sure he doesn't move and then I head in using my Sword 5, get that fear, start dealing some damage with the sword skills, and then head right into my Shroud. Once he goes out of stealth, I do follow using my Shroud 5 and just try to continue to chase using my sword leaps as I can and swap to my staff to finish him off with all of my staff skills. I then can use my fancy finisher and finally get him down. Thief is probably my least favorite class to fight, but this build does have enough mobility to actually keep up with them. I was trying to take a camp, but then this Virtuoso comes along. They go invisible, but I still know they're there, so I try to get away from the camp as far as I can. I land my Spectral Ring, getting some fear damage in, and also just helping with keeping them away. I land my Staff 5, getting even more fear damage, and then I continue to try to go in. I use my Shroud 3 and 2, being able to stun them and dealing a lot of damage. They teleport away, and I use my Shroud 5 to try to get them down, which I do with it having damage now. I spend quite a lot of time just trying to use my finisher on this Virtuoso to get him finally fully down, but with him teleporting it also makes it difficult. During this it also gives the Firebrand time to actually get over here, and now is going to make it so I can't take this camp because it turns out that this Firebrand was full support. I definitely don't have enough damage to deal with it. This one I get snuck up on by Luminary. I start taking quite a bit of damage just because I didn't realize right off the bat. I use my heal because I do need that health and then go into my Shroud trying to deal damage with my 3-2-3 combo. Not really landing too much damage though, and Luminary sustain is really good. So I Shroud 5 teleport over to the next area to make sure I'm able to control this fight, and bait him into an area where it's smaller and I'm actually able to hit most of my skills. Because of the small area, my Spectral Ring does hit, and it does hit twice. So, while he's stunned from the fear, I can finish him off with my 2-3-2 burst. This build does have good bursts if you can capitalize off of the fear that you inflict. This fight's going to be against a good Untamed player. I'm going to try to make some distance in between me and him just to see what weapon sets he's going to be using my Spectral Walk and my Sword Leaps to try to make that distance. I use my Shroud 3-2-3 combo trying to get some damage in, and it looks like he's primarily melee focused, except for maybe his axe main hand. This means I'm going to probably need to make a lot of distance during this fight and just kite him out as much as possible. Using my Staff 5 and getting good fear damage along with my Spectral Ring and catching him in it, getting a lot of fear damage right there. I then enter my Shroud, trying to use any Shroud skill I can, but I do accidentally cancel it and it doesn't really end up going too well. I get stunned and he uses his projectile pet bubble, which makes this position even worse for me, but thankfully with all the sustain I have, I can walk away just enough. I use my heal after exiting Shroud along with my sword skills trying to get any damage in. Sadly, he does stun break out of my fear. I use my Spectral Walk and my sword skills trying to make some distance, then teleport back and use my 3-2-3 combo, trying to land damage, but he does a really good job at evading. I use my Shroud 5 to reposition my spirits and then use my Innervate Wanderlust to get that fear on him, though of course he also stun breaks out of that. My health is pretty low, so I do exit my Shroud and then jump down the hill just to make sure I'm staying out of his range. I use my Spectral Ring and catch him in it. Plus, I also hit my Sword 5 and my Staff 5, chaining my fear so much, getting him down really low because of all that fear damage. Then I use my Shroud skills trying to get him down as far as I can and using my Shroud 5 for that extra damage. I use the rest of my Shroud skills when I can off cooldown to get that extra life force when summoning spirits. Trying to land some damage with my staff skills, I also get stunned, using my special walk though helping with the Condi cleanse, and also using my staff 4 for extra Condi transfer. I go back into my Shroud and use my 3-2-3, stunning him again and getting him down really low. He lightning reflexes right off the cliff and I go down with my Shroud 5 dealing as much damage as I can, continuing to auto attack to finish him off. He goes down and I try to use my finisher, but he does swap pets to his wolf and it does fear me right off the cliff. Very good play by him. I wasn't able to get back up in time and that's where the fight ends. The first encounter is with a Harbinger, first stunlocking him right off the bat with my staff 5 and going into my sword 5 to continue that stun. Slowly melting him down with that fear damage, I jump in and then use my Shroud 323, stunlocking him again and dealing really good damage with my Innervate skills. Fear can be a pain to deal with if you don't have enough stun breaks or Condi Cleanse in your build. The last encounter is with a Soul Beast. I jump in using my staff 5 right off the bat and also chaining it with my Spectral Ring, getting good fear damage in, and stun locking with my 323 combo, along with my Innervate skills doing really good damage, and bursting him down right away. The amount of number instances that pop up when using your Shroud skills is incredible with Ritualist and is so satisfying. Anyways, that's the build. I really enjoy this build just because of how much it can control fights, plus it is incredibly tanky while having that fear which can make some fun times on cliffs. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have some fun times like I did during this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Consider giving this video a thumbs up and thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in one of these, and have a great day.